Before the empire. Before the influence. Before the billionaire status. There was a little girl born in rural Mississippi in 1954. Her name was Oprah Winfrey. She wasn't born into opportunity. She was born into poverty. Raised by her grandmother on a small farm, Oprah wore dresses made from potato sacks. There was no luxury. No comfort. No spotlight. Just survival. But even as a child, there were signs. She learned to read at the age of 3. She recited Bible verses in church with confidence far beyond her years. Her voice carried power before the world knew her name. Yet poverty is more than lack of money. It can shrink expectations. It can limit imagination. But not hers. Books became her escape. Stories became her shelter. Words became her weapon. She wasn't just reading stories. She was subconsciously preparing to tell them. What makes this moment powerful is this. Nothing about her beginning suggested global influence. No connections. No wealth. No privilege. Just a little girl with a voice. And sometimes, that is enough. Because greatness does not always announce itself in comfort. Sometimes it grows quietly in struggle. And struggle was only beginning. By the age of 9, Oprah's life took a darker turn. She endured abuse. Repeated trauma. Silence forced upon her. And like many children in similar situations, she carried shame that was never hers to carry. Pain at that level can destroy identity. It can create lifelong wounds. It can silence potential. But for Oprah, something unusual happened. She did not allow pain to define her future. She would later say that speaking about her trauma publicly was one of the most freeing decisions of her life. But at that time, she was just a child trying to survive emotionally. By 14, she became pregnant. The child did not survive. For many, that would have ended the story. But it didn't end hers. She moved to live with her father in Nashville. And this move changed everything. Her father was strict. Disciplined. Focused on education. He required her to read books and write reports weekly. Structure replaced chaos. Expectations replaced neglect. And slowly, confidence returned. This was the turning point. Not fame. Not money. But stability. Sometimes power begins with structure. And Oprah was about to discover hers. Living with her father in Nashville, something began to shift inside Oprah Winfrey. For the first time, she wasn't just surviving. She was developing. Her father demanded excellence. Books were mandatory. Education was non-negotiable. Oprah didn't resist it. She embraced it. She joined the speech team at school. Entered oratory competitions. And every time she stood in front of an audience, something electric happened. Her voice wasn't just strong. It was magnetic. She didn't speak like a child trying to impress. She spoke like someone who had lived. Judges noticed. Teachers noticed. Eventually, local media noticed. At 17 years old, she won the Miss Black Tennessee beauty pageant. But this wasn't about glamour. It was about exposure. That win led to a job offer at a local radio station. She became one of the youngest and first black female news anchors at WVOL Radio in Nashville. Think about that. From rural poverty to a microphone. Her voice, once silenced by trauma, was now broadcast publicly. But the journey wasn't smooth. She was emotional on air. She connected too deeply. Traditional news demanded detachment. But Oprah couldn't detach from human pain. And what critics saw as weakness would soon become her greatest strength. Oprah transitioned into television news in Baltimore. It was a major opportunity. A serious newsroom. Professional environment. But something wasn't clicking. She struggled with the format. Hard news required neutrality. Distance. Composure. Oprah felt everything. She cried with victims. Connected deeply with interviewees. Management said she was unfit for television news. Eventually, she was removed from the anchor desk. Reassigned. For many, this would have been humiliation. Proof that you don't belong. But sometimes rejection is redirection. She was moved to a daytime talk show called People Are Talking. And everything changed. In that format, emotion wasn't weakness. It was power. Her authenticity connected with viewers. She didn't interview people. She experienced. In 1984, Oprah moved to Chicago to host a struggling morning talk show. It ranked last in its time slot. Low ratings. Little hope. Minimal expectations. But within months, everything changed. Her warmth. Her vulnerability. Her honesty. Audiences responded immediately. The show climbed from last place to first. Within a year, it was renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show. This wasn't just career progress. This was transformation. For the first time, she wasn't just a host. She was the brand. Her name was the product. Her story was the connection. By 1986, the show went national. And millions were watching daily. But Oprah did something few television personalities did at that time. She negotiated ownership. Through her company, Harpo Productions, she secured control of her content. That decision changed everything. She wasn't just talent. She was building an empire. From poverty to platform. From trauma to television. But the real power move was still ahead. Because influence without ownership is limited. And Oprah was about to take control. When the Oprah Winfrey Show went national in 1986, most hosts would have celebrated fame. But Oprah Winfrey was thinking differently. She wasn't just focused on ratings. She was focused on control. At a time when many television personalities were simply employees, Oprah negotiated something radical. Ownership. Through her production company, Harpo Productions, Oprah, spelled backward, she gained rights to her show. That meant something powerful. She didn't just receive a salary. She received profits. Syndication revenue. Licensing power. Creative control. This decision transformed her from talent into business leader. From host into mogul. Most people chase visibility. Oprah chased equity. And equity multiplies. By owning her content, she positioned herself not as a replaceable personality, but as infrastructure. Her show wasn't just programming. It was intellectual property. It was brand equity. It was long-term leverage. This was the moment she shifted from famous to financially powerful. Because fame fades. Ownership compounds. And Oprah understood that before most people did. What made Oprah different wasn't just business strategy. It was emotional intelligence. She spoke openly about her trauma. Her abuse. Her teenage pregnancy. Her insecurities. At a time when public figures carefully guarded their image, Oprah leaned into transparency. And the audience responded. Viewers didn't see perfection. They saw possibility. They saw someone who survived. Her show became more than entertainment. It became therapy. It became empowerment. She tackled difficult topics, racism, addiction, relationships, self-worth. And she did it with empathy. This created trust. And trust is currency. The more she connected emotionally, the stronger her brand became. Brands built on image can collapse. Brands built on authenticity endure. Oprah wasn't performing strength. She was embodying resilience. And that authenticity built something money cannot easily buy. Loyalty. Millions tuned in daily. Not just to watch, but to feel. And influence at that scale creates opportunity beyond television. She wasn't just shaping ratings. She was shaping culture. By the early 2000s, Oprah had become one of the most powerful women in media. Her show ran for 25 seasons. But the real transformation was financial. In 2003, Oprah became the first black female billionaire in the United States. Let that sink in. From potato sack dresses to billionaire. From silence to global voice. Her wealth didn't come from a single paycheck. It came from diversified power. Television, film acting, book club partnerships, magazine publishing, investments. She built a portfolio, not just a career. And unlike many celebrities, she retained control. She made strategic partnerships instead of surrendering ownership. She invested in brands aligned with her identity. She built carefully. Intentionally. Long-term. This wasn't luck. This was strategy layered on resilience. But money was never the final goal. Because true power is not measured by income. It is measured by impact. And Oprah's greatest influence was still expanding. When Oprah Winfrey recommended a book, something extraordinary happened. It didn't just sell. It exploded. Her book club, launched in 1996, transformed unknown authors into bestsellers overnight. Bookstores created special Oprah Picks sections. Publishers waited anxiously for her endorsement. Why? Because her audience trusted her completely. This wasn't just influence. It was economic power. One recommendation could generate millions in sales. But the deeper impact was cultural. She encouraged reading, reflection, conversation. She elevated stories about identity, struggle, healing, and growth. And she did it consistently. This demonstrated something powerful. Influence is most valuable when it uplifts others. Oprah didn't just build her platform. She used it to elevate voices. And that built even more loyalty. She wasn't just a broadcaster. She was a cultural curator. A trusted guide. And with that trust, she began thinking beyond television. Beyond syndication. Beyond daily talk shows. She wanted ownership at an even higher level. And so she made another bold move. In 2011, Oprah ended the Oprah Winfrey Show after 25 years. Many thought it was a mistake. Why leave something so successful? But Oprah was thinking long-term again. She launched the Oprah Winfrey Network, OWN. A full cable channel. This was not a guaranteed success. In fact, it struggled at first. Ratings were low. Critics were harsh. Financial pressure mounted. Some media outlets called it her first major failure. But Oprah had faced failure before. She adjusted. Repositioned the content. Focused on storytelling, personal growth, and inspirational programming. Gradually, OWN gained traction. The network found its identity. This move showed something critical. Even billionaires must take risks. Even icons must reinvent themselves. OWN wasn't just another show. It was infrastructure. A platform she fully controlled. This was vertical integration at the highest level. She moved from talent to producer to network owner. That is the difference between participation and power. And Oprah chose power. As her wealth expanded, so did her giving. Oprah invested heavily in education. In 2007, she opened the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for girls in South Africa. Why girls? Because she saw herself in them. Young. Bright. Limited by circumstance. She believed education changes destiny. Her philanthropy wasn't publicity. It was personal. She gave from experience. From empathy. From memory. This is another layer of her journey. Power without purpose feels empty. Oprah's influence extended beyond television screens. It reached classrooms. Communities. Generations. She transformed pain into platform. Platform into profit. Profit into purpose. And that cycle created something rare. A legacy rooted in empowerment. But no legacy is complete without reflection. Because the true measure of success is not what you build. It's what endures. Success can trap people. Once you become iconic, the pressure to stay the same becomes heavy. But Oprah Winfrey never allowed herself to be defined by one era. When daytime television changed, she evolved. When media shifted toward digital platforms, she adapted. She partnered strategically, including a major stake in Weight Watchers, now WW, transforming it with her influence and authenticity. She didn't just endorse brands. She invested. She aligned with businesses that reflected her journey of growth and self-improvement. This is critical. Oprah didn't separate her story from her strategy. Her brand was built on transformation, and she invested. Many people build careers. Few build ecosystems. Oprah built an ecosystem of media, publishing, film, network ownership, partnerships, and philanthropy, all aligned with empowerment. She wasn't chasing trends. She was reinforcing identity. And identity, when authentic, compounds over time. From rural poverty to boardroom power. Not by accident. But by alignment. Oprah's journey is not just about becoming a billionaire. It's about redefining what power looks like. Power is not volume. Power is not dominance. Power is not perfection. True power is ownership of your story. Oprah Winfrey was born into poverty. She endured abuse. She faced rejection. She was told she was too emotional for television. And yet, those very experiences became her strength. Let's anchor the lessons clearly. Lesson 1: Your beginnings do not determine your ending. Circumstances are starting points, not life sentences. Lesson 2: What you survive can become your advantage. Her emotional depth, once criticized, became her greatest differentiator. Lesson 3: Ownership creates wealth. Through Harpo Productions and the Oprah Winfrey Network, she controlled both narrative and revenue. Lesson 4: Authenticity builds influence. She didn't pretend strength. She embodied resilience. Lesson 5: Purpose multiplies impact. Her philanthropy turned success into legacy. From potato sacks to boardrooms. From silence to global influence. She didn't just rise. She rebuilt herself, layer by layer. And that is the billionaire mindset. If this story moved you, challenged you, or made you rethink your own limitations, this is exactly why Billionaire Backstories exists. We don't just tell success stories. We uncover the mindset behind them. Subscribe to Billionaire Backstories, like this episode, and share it with someone who needs to remember that their past does not disqualify their future. Because the next story might unlock your next breakthrough. And trust me, we're just getting started.